So our next session is maybe a pretty dry one, but very important one. Um, and now we have just 45 minutes. Maybe we need to keep on track. So stuff and management and skills development are so important. In terms of our business model, we are not able to pay huge salaries and so on. So we need to create some ideas how to bring the stuff with us to create such an impact programs that we saw yesterday and the last days, recent days, and so maybe we will get some insights from the next sessions. And Ashling is here right by my, and you can start here. Thank you. Is it here or is it like, oh.
So here you see the current slide,
Yeah.
and here's the next one. You can change with this or with the arrows.
Okay, perfect.
As you know.
Cool. Hi everyone. As everyone that I've been talking to knows, I'm very much in panic mode. So sorry if I speak too fast. Adrian's going to slow me down if I do. So I'm just going to talk about Lighthouse Cinema, which I'm head of marketing for in Dublin City, and sorry. We also have a site in Galway, which is the west of Ireland, but the focus today is Lighthouse Cinema. So I'll give a bit of a background on the cinema itself, and then a little bit how we work with our staff to enhance our offering. So this is Smithfield. You won't be surprised to know that this was voted the coolest place in Europe, or coolest because it looks it. So thankfully Lighthouse helps to kind of bring a little bit of vibrancy to the area. We're a 4-screen cinema, so about 620 seats or so, and kind of we're known for like the architectural design of the cinema. As you've seen as well, the entrance is a little bit obscure, so the when you kind of come inside, it's like, you know, down in the basement, so people never really know what to expect when it's their first time there. Our kind of colourful seats are also another kind of calling card for us, and we have a cafe and bar and a mezzanine space which we use for kind of exhibitions and kind of parties. We also are really lucky that we get an awful lot of kind of premieres and events as well as conferences. So there's an awful lot going on. We're really lucky with the staff that we kind of tend to attract. They're really creative and add an awful lot to kind of what we're doing, and particularly when we have kind of our own parties and season events and things like that. So Amy is our event manager, and she's one of the most creative people I know. So she generally is able to kind of come up with an idea or something kind of really fun and creative for events. I don't know if you can see the picture there, but she actually made the pregnancy belly from 10 Things I Hate About You for the party for people to try on, as well as this sign as well. So she's a marvel. Then other things that we've done as well, the staff all kind of spent a couple of weeks creating origami flowers to create the outfit from Midsummer, and we then had this as a photo opportunity when we played it. I think it was like two years ago. So we kind of encouraged people to take their photos and share them online. Something else that our staff really love doing is their tip jars. So this kind of went down a treat last summer for Oppenheimer. So it's always kind of gets, again, kind of photos being taken and things like that. Something we wanted to do last year as well was kind of start to take a little bit of ownership of both Barbie and Oppenheimer, and kind of make sure that Lighthouse was destination for that. So in the 3 weeks before the films were released, we made badges, but staff made them in-house. So we had them printed, so it was Team Gerwig, Team Nolan, and they were free for people to kind of come in and pick up. But we had so much interest in them that we actually added them to our online shop, and we had like they charged €1 for them and postage, but they were really popular, and also kind of really helped kind of get the staff on board and excited for both films. Our projectionist is also he has his own following online and is, as you can imagine, a little bit of a nerd. But he loves doing projection booth tours. So when we're showing 35mm prints, we offer free projection booth tours to members, which kind of enhances obviously the fact that we're showing films on 35mm. So that just led to our success for last year for Barbenheimer. So we had our busiest weekend of all time, which was, I'm sure most sites did as well. So it was brilliant. But just to kind of enhance like staff creativity and kind of help support them, we also had a craft market last Christmas. So they were able to just have a space to sell their own crafts, which I think they really appreciated. And again, it just adds its lens kind of to the creativity around the building. We had a Scooby-Doo party, and one of our staff made the skull from Skull Island, so it's just really kind of impressive what people will do. But one of our proudest achievements this year was we played City of God, and we have a couple of staff from Brazil, and they recreated the stairs in the venue, so they were really proud of that, as they should be. But we also shared that the day of the screening, and we were showing it for a weekend anyway, and it kind of was a little bit of a viral moment on our channels, and definitely helped with sales. Other areas that our staff are kind of keen and enthusiastic about getting involved with is social media. I know some people were talking about TikTok the other day, and how kind of to work with your staff on that. We're lucky that our staff are kind of really engaged and want to kind of be seen. So this was one of their creations. So just...
Hi, what are you listening to?
Oh, sorry, Europa Cinema's theme song?
So yeah, we kind of play with the theme song quite a lot. So it's quite funny. So our programmer David Kelly started. He was actually our social media manager for like a kind of 8 years or so, and now he's in our programming team. But one of his kind of aims was to work with staff, given kind of using their kind of nostalgia, and he calls it kind of new nostalgia, because we're obviously all getting a little bit older. So he actually, I think Scooby-Doo was initially a staff pick, but it wasn't formally a staff pick, but we saw the interest that there was in the audience on something like that. And has a trial run. He ran a Jackass marathon, which was also suggested by staff, and he wasn't really sure if that was going to kind of be like something that people want to go to, and I think we sold about 100 tickets for it. That was November 2022, and Shauna, who chose that as her film, also created zines and did a presentation.
Hi, what are you listening to?
Oh, sorry.
So we then started to kind of formalise the process. So Emmy is another member of staff who is a DJ from Japan, and she chose Lost in Translation, and she DJ'd after the screening. So it just kind of enhances the event, and again, staff are really enthusiastic about it. So this year we kind of take a little bit of the work, or not the work, but take a little bit of the kind of to formalise it a little bit. We've now kind of set up a form where people will put in their staff picks, and we do this on a monthly basis. David was a little bit enthusiastic this month, and we have 3. We had The Princess Bride on Sunday, which was, I think it was almost sold out. I have the figures here, sorry. The Princess Bride, we had 268 people, and 32% of them were under 25. So it kind of shows it's a good way of kind of seeing what younger people may want to watch. But also, interestingly, An Elephant Sitting Still is on later in July, and it was one that I was maybe slightly concerned that we may not have the audience for. We've sold 15 tickets are pre-sold, and 46% of that audience are actually under 25 and students, which I thought was really interesting. But what we've created this brand identity for it. We have a quad in the venue where we update with the new staff picks using kind of that Polaroid image, and a little frame at box office as well. And we're getting really positive feedback from from customers about the staff picks. So it is really interesting to see what they kind of want to do. And then just kind of to add to the kind of DIY nature to it, we just print these kind of Polaroid style pictures out in house and have them around the venue as well. And again, the staff are like really enthusiastic about that. And then the usual sharing on social media and in screen. And then I kind of jokingly call it like micro influence, but like we've asked them to share it on their own channels as well, and it's just a way for them to kind of get engaged and involved. There are definitely pros in terms of doing something like this. You get your kind of youth engagement and like see what young audiences are looking for. There's collaborating with staff, also kind of giving them an education about kind of programming, what it takes. You know, it's not as simple as just saying I want to see this film and put it on screen. They kind of start to understand that it can sometimes be difficult getting rights, and then also as well that sometimes it's not as easy as just I like film so everyone else will. So they get a little bit of an education, and then we would hope that this is kind of hopefully down the line opening opportunities for them as well, and kind of just educating in film programming and obviously marketing as well. Then some of the cons to it, I suppose, is just managing expectations. And again, if a film isn't available, or if maybe a film is something that may not have an audience, it's obviously disappointing for us, but it can be disappointing for staff members too. So it's just trying to kind of balance that as well. And again, some choices as well might just prove to be more popular. So we've kind of seen that where then staff are a little bit maybe disappointed. I think we had like Armageddon and it was on a really hot Saturday evening and the sales maybe weren't as kind of busy as the staff member had expected. But overall it's definitely a positive influence kind of within the cinema, and I'm definitely forgetting something. So if there's any questions, just let me know. And there's the lads, as I promised.
Thank you very much. Amazing. Thank you. Really nice. How does this work? Do you have regular meetings with the staff and ask for the staff picks or for decoration?
So David, who's our programmer, we would be in the cinema quite a lot. Oh, sorry. We would be in the cinema quite a lot. Or we have a head office, but he is we would, I suppose, have quite kind of a just casual relationship with him, and the staff are generally always really enthusiastic about asking about what they want to see. So then that's why David wanted to kind of formalize it a little bit more with kind of having, rather than just like anytime he arrives at the cinema being like, oh, I want to see this. So he wanted to make it a strand itself, and again just kind of make sure that every voice is being heard as well. So then there might be some staff that may be a little bit nervous of approaching, say, like head office, but so having a form where they can submit their requests if you're maybe someone that is shyer or something, or you don't see us, that kind of opens it up.
Really
but then
great.
in terms of kind of the like venue dressing and all of that kind of thing, that would be like our venue management team, myself, Alice, who's our head of cinema, and David, who's programming. So when we're looking ahead at events that we have, we will kind of identify events that we like, if they're one-offs, we want to make sure that like we're kind of doing something special for them. But we kind of brainstorm a little bit and identify the key people. But like I said, like Amy is kind of our secret weapon. She's just a really creative kind of person, very crafty in a good way.
Yeah. And it seems it's a really dynamic process.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, but
Any
takes a lot
questions?
of work. Answered everything.
Okay.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you very much, Ashley. So, our next presentation. Okay, we are on time. It's Sami.
Okay, I use this. Okay. You can hear me? Yeah. Okay. So hello, my name's Sami and I'm the Marketing Officer at the ICO. So the ICO, we're in the UK, but we're a national organisation which supports independent cinemas, film festivals and other kinds of exhibitors. So today I'm going to be looking at inclusive recruitment in two ways. Firstly, how we support the rest of the sector to do that, and then also some of the changes we've made within our own organisation. So yeah, first of all, supporting the sector, I'm going to initially give a bit of context about the workforce in the UK at the moment, and I'm going to quickly talk about two ways that we're trying to diversify that. Okay, so a couple of years ago we conducted a survey of the UK film exhibition workforce. This was useful in seeing who is working in the sector and who's not so much. Very briefly, I'll mention three of the top line results. So firstly, the sector doesn't reflect the ethnic diversity of the UK. So in the survey, 89% of respondents identified as white, and when you consider that a large proportion of jobs are in London, which is much more diverse than that, then you can see there's a difference there. A majority of people come from more privileged backgrounds, compared with 37% of the UK population, and only a very small number of people identified as having some form of being physically disabled in some way. So it seems that there are barriers for all of these kinds of people to enter the industry. So moving on to some things that we've done to try and help change this. So since 2015 we've ran a traineeship scheme called FEGS. So in this, participants undertake a 10-month paid placement at a cinema or film festival, and priority is given to people from the kinds of groups I mentioned previously. The purposes of this is to give them a first step in the industry, but this does require quite a lot of funding to run this sort of scheme. The cinema or festival where they're placed could pay a proportion of their salary, and then we pay the rest. But since 2015, we've supported over 40 trainees. It's complicated. There's more than that, but 81% of those are still working in film, and 2 of them are actually now working at the ICO. One of which is me. So I'm a big fan of this scheme. Thank you, ICO. We also run a jobs board for the whole sector. So this is free for cinemas or festivals to share their vacancies, and it's free for job seekers to use as well. Every year it's the most viewed page on our website, more than the homepage, and it's where a lot of people first find out about the ICO. It's how I first found out about it as well. We have a mailing list which goes out, a newsletter which is sent out every day if a new job is added to the jobs board. Anything else in that? Oh yes, there is. So in recent years we've made some changes to it. We've become more strict in the kind of jobs we'll post, so to try and make the jobs that are shared, the advertisements, the process more fair for applicants. So first of all, they must have if they're a paid position, they must state what the salary is, or a small range. They can't say only depending on experience. They need a closing date, and once it's posted, it can't close before the advertised date. If you get lots of applications, you can't close it before you said you would. We do accept some voluntary roles, but there are different criteria for these. But mainly we will consider it on a case-by-case basis, and if we feel it's asking too much of the potential volunteers, then we won't post it. But in general, we think they are an important part of the sector, particularly for festivals. But yeah, we want to make sure that it's going fairly, and we're aware that it benefits people who are more financially independently. You know what I mean. They can do that more. They can undertake voluntary roles more easily. So I'm now going to move on to things that we've changed, that we do internally at the ICO. I will say, first of all, that this is an evolving process. Some of it we've done always, some of it is new, and maybe it's not all the best way. You can tell me what you think afterwards. So in terms of our recruitment process, there's some more detail there, but I'll focus on a few things in particular. So since the pandemic, we've ran online information sessions for all of our vacancies. So these are a way for people who are interested in the job to firstly find out more about the role, but also they can ask, we do it on Zoom, they can ask questions anonymously that way, which I think is useful, but also they can get a sense of the organisational culture as well. Usually there's two people on the call from the ICO, and they'll talk about what it's like working here. And sometimes we find that it helps applicants realise that they're maybe not suitable for a role. It's not what they thought. A lot of people think we're involved in film production, for example, which we're not very much. So it actually helps reduce the number of applicants. We often get a lot of applications for our jobs, and so this can help save time for everyone, including applicants. Once we receive applications, recently we've started doing a name anonymous shortlisting process. So this means that we remove all identifying information from the application before the recruiting team see it. So they don't see the name, they don't see the age or the gender. They just see we have an application form and you write a supporting statement, and that's mainly the only thing that they see. So yeah, it's more based on their skills. And then outside of permanent roles, we're also we've opened up opportunities in other ways. We run open calls, which are paid, where people can propose ideas for film programs at our events or sessions, for example, like panels or workshops. And so this is opening things up outside of our staff. We also recruit advisory groups for several areas of our work. So this is a group of people who have expertise that our staff don't have, and when we're planning a project or an event, they'll help us plan it and advise us on things that we could change, and help shape a program. And it's often very useful because they will think of things that we haven't thought of, and it helps us progress with what we're doing. Oh no, sorry, too quick. You got it, so I could get. So very lastly, a few things on, just a couple of things on more once we have staff and how we manage them and develop them. Well, when we work with freelancers, we recently introduced a feedback form for people we work with. So this is an opportunity for them to let us know what the experience of working with us was like and what could have been better. There's also an optional diversity monitoring form as part of this, where this helps us gather data on types of people we are working with and have worked with recently, and that helps when we're looking for freelancers to work with for the next project. We can look, see where we have gaps, and can try to find people in that way. Helps us work with a broader range of people. And lastly, I can talk about more, I think I'm running out of time, but I can talk about if you have questions and other things. But lastly, there's often opportunities to work in outside your area, your specific area of work. My role was in marketing, but I've been able to propose session ideas for events and deliver these myself. I've got to program my own film season for our online platform, which I would say is probably definitely one of the highlights of my career so far. So yeah, I think that is a useful thing in terms of I've developed my skills in other ways, like public speaking. Maybe it's not so good, and yeah, programming and things like that. I will stop there, I think, but yeah. Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I was just quickly wondering how does it work when you stated that there was no CVs? So how do you know what the experience is of a person?
Yeah, so when someone applies, we have an application form where you do list your experience, but for the initial shortlisting, we don't see that. It's that's removed for the first round, for the shortlist, and then when it comes to interview, yeah, they can talk about it, but yeah.
How is your view on the fact or on the situation? Are the applicants aware of the possibilities in our business, in our customers? Is that attractive to them? To keep in mind that our salary is not such high, maybe like other businesses, industries.
You mean?
Are we still attractive as a place to work?
I think at least in the UK, yes. If we have, in terms of the number of I look at the jobs board that we run. We post 600. Last year we posted 600 jobs in a year, and I look at I pulled the gay curve for that year, and you know, there's in terms of, like, for example, I think programming is particularly appealing job for people, and when there's only a few posted a year, and then we recently had a vacancy there, and we had like 150, 200 applications for that. So I think despite not very high salaries necessarily, I think compared with other areas in the UK like the NHS or teaching, where there's big issues in like recruitment and things like that, people do want to work in the film industry. But, yeah.
Great, thank you. Annie?
Hi Sami, congratulations for your presentation. We had this discussion before, but I wanted to ask like publicly. I think from what you told me that this platform is more UK oriented, and I was wondering if something like that exists, or you are planning to do it like more European scale.
Yeah, I think it's something we've talked about briefly in terms internally, and we do take if someone from outside the UK sends us a job, then we do post it. It's rare, and I haven't looked at the audience for our newsletter and the visitors for the. I would say it's probably quite UK centric, so it's maybe at the moment less valuable for employers outside of the UK to use the service, but I think we would be open to, like, it would need like development in terms of making cinemas outside of the UK aware that they can use the jobs board, building an audience for the mailing list and the website and things. I don't. The majority of our web views are from the UK primarily, but but possibly it would be more useful for if there are other organisations like us in other countries could do similar things for their own country. But yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so Maddie, for the third time, and maybe it's a record on all labs. So, Maddie.
Yes, sorry, it's me again. We didn't actually get many suggestions from the participants to talk about this topic. I'm sorry, it's so UK centric. But I do think maybe with the job board, this is something Europa Cinemas could think about, because you're an international network, and or if you have national organizations that do training or networks, this is a really good thing that they could perhaps look at adding. It's super useful. And we'll talk a little bit about the boot camp this afternoon, which is a Europa Cinemas initiative, which allows you to develop training. And I'd really recommend you look at the work of the ICO. They do some amazing training for exhibitors in the UK. There's some really good models there that you could adapt potentially. But yeah, back to Watershed, sorry. So I wanted to talk about kind of organizational culture, and that we've got a workshop afterwards where you can talk in groups about these things, but I just wanted to share some of the things that we've done. So we were set up in 1982, and at the time we were quite a small organization. We now have 80 members of staff, so it's grown exponentially. We have lots of different areas of our work. We have a trading company that do conferences, weddings, not funerals yet. The cafe bar is run by them. We have a trust which includes the cinema, but also a huge amount of projects, many international projects involving tech and artists. So we're kind of broker between technologists and artists. We host, we have a research center with the two universities. So it's become quite a big organization, and actually, at some point, what you end up with is lots of different cultures. So you have like the tech group culture, you've got the cinema culture, you've got the office culture, and it can be quite a challenge. I personally, I manage about 7 people plus a whole load of freelancers. They're all like completely different personalities, and I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out how to motivate them, how to get the best out of these people, and I've kind of realized that there's definitely not one size fits all. I have to work differently, have different meeting structures with different people to get the best out of them. And some will actively ask for my time, others won't, and I have to literally corner them over a drink just to find out how they're doing. I just want the pictures I've shown you here. So we've got, that's Helen Jaffer, who's now called our head of people. So we no longer have like HR, and she's doing an amazing job with trying to change the organizational culture or empower us as a group to kind of work on this stuff. And then some of the initiatives, we also tried to put our stamp on Barbie and made it a very queer Barbie environment. And we work regularly with David Ellington, who's deaf artist, on creating events for the deaf community beyond screenings. So, because we were doing a lot of deaf screenings, but there was never an opportunity to chat afterwards, and also to promote the films, and just make sure Watershed is inclusive when you just walk into the venue. But rather than me telling you about people, can I play sound from this, Adrien? Yeah, cool. I will just play this little clip, which we actually did this because after COVID it was very difficult to recruit, and we were really struggling. So we thought, let's make a video on Zoom to say how cool it is to work at Watershed. But this is what we came up with. If it works, I don't know if it will. Maybe I'll go on there. It might work if I go on there. There's actually a job if you want to work for us. Oh, there. And there is a BSL version, but...
For me, it's been quite an eye-opening experience to join Watershed because this career change is unlike any that I have ever attempted before. Working at Watershed has given me the chance to finally indulge my inner creative that I feel I've had to suppress to get by in my career in the past.
Working at Watershed just feels like a really accepting place, a place where I kind of can be myself, but also where I can learn and grow. And I think it's a place where you can step outside and think differently and take risks. And I really appreciate that.
It's the first job where I saw people who looked like me and I felt included.
Watershed is really excited to try new things and to wear that on its sleeve a little bit. So some things work really well, some things maybe don't work so well, but there's a real kind of a group effort towards creating change, I think, and kind of seeing where change can come from and what that change can be.
Our DMs are like super supportive and really look after us, which is lovely, way more than in any other job that I've had.
For me, each day is different. It's dynamic and there's so much change and a difference that happens in the organisation.
It's a beautiful building, it's light, it's airy, it's on the harbour side in Bristol, which is one of my favourite spots in Bristol. What's not to like?
What I love the most about Watershed is the people. Well, not just the people that work for the organisation, but anyone that collaborates with us and clients and customers and everybody is just happy to be here.
It's not stuffy. That's definitely something I looked for in life, not a stuffy job.
I've been supported through some really difficult stuff, and I'm still here, and I still feel unable to do my job. Like, there can't be many places that can do that for people.
If I was talking to myself about applying to Watershed, I wouldn't think about it. I would just go for it. Because there's just so much to be gained from this Watershed experience, from what it has to offer in growth, in personality, in meeting people, in everything it has currently and will have in the future.
There are the places you just I don't want to go in today. Oh, I don't want to go there. But I'm up and I'm out, and I never feel like that. Which is quite good, I think.
So if anyone that works in finance and wants a job, come and talk to me. Because we're still struggling with getting people to work with us in finance. It's, yeah. So I talked about like how do you put the glue when you've become such a complex organization, and I'm sure even some of the small organizations here have got different cultures and things. So one of the things we realized we did is we never spent time together as a whole group. So a few years ago we decided to close the building for one day, which was like the biggest thing ever. We were like, how can we close? We can't do it. So we just put a poster on the door and said, sorry, we closed. We want to spend time with ourselves. And that was one of the best things we ever did, to be honest. I never spent any time with the kitchen or these, some of the guys that work like the night shift. And we spent a whole day doing like training that they needed to do, the health and safety and things like that. Each department could have a bit of time out, but also sharing stuff with each other, like trying to understand what we're all doing and in different teams, explaining the budget to everybody, but not the finance manager, but all the different teams explaining how they figure out their budget, so we understand each other's pressures and so on. And one of the things we did is we actually created values, and I'm sure some of you will be cringing now. It's another corporate word, values, branding, and I was one of those cynical people, I have to say. But actually it was nice because we just talked to each other about the things that are important to us, and and now we kind of use some of the words, you know, jokingly when there's a bit of stress on the organization. Let's just be kind. But yeah, that was a really good piece of work that we did together, and we're also trying to do this with our partners, our suppliers, and it really helps with recruitment as well, to be clear about what you stand for, and also recognize that, you know, you might have started something with a vision where everybody was on the same page, but as you grow and as new people join the company, they might not understand your ethos, and it's quite important to kind of sometimes refresh that ethos with them, and maybe it's moved on. So to kind of get the team on board. Like the ICO, we've done a lot of work on, so this is very British, this approach. I'm not completely fully sure it's the right way to go, but that's what we do. We're very focused on demographic surveys, data-driven decisions, that kind of thing. You couldn't do it in every country because I know it's not legal in some countries to ask for things, for this type of information. But so we do this kind of annual survey which helps us understand who works for us, how do they feel about working for us, and it allows people to anonymously kind of give feedback, because when you have a team of 80 people, there's a lot of things you don't hear, even if you chat to people a lot on the floor. And I think some of the positive things that have come out of it helped us understand that basically a lot of us are neurodiverse, which is complex in management term, but it means we could do some training together to kind of like open up what is neurodiversity, how does it manifest itself, how can we deal with it. And also everybody, by the way, there are 20% of our staff, or it's more than 18% of our staff that are disabled, 18% are neurodiverse, so just raising the awareness within the teams. And as a manager, that's really helped me to understand, like, there's probably people in my team that are neurodiverse, and you try to figure out how best to kind of adapt your style and so on. And then other more complex things which are more subjective about how people feel about, can they be themselves at work, and this is not straightforward, but we're doing a lot of work as departments off the back of that to try to kind of figure out, well, why is it that some department feels they belong, others don't, and we can address it as a team of managers. We've done a lot of work on recruitment, and yeah, we're doing some similar things to the ICO around, but slightly, I would say, more, rather than anonymizing everything, we've gone the other way, which is to really say to people, we want people that are not represented in our organization. So it's almost like positive, not discrimination, but positive action. And we actually invite those people to come, and they can have a meeting before they apply. If they're from a community that's underrepresented, get some support. We can help them figure out how they can present themselves. We do chats because we realize that a lot of people find it very difficult to present themselves on paper well, and to actually meet someone and get their personality as well as their statement can make a big difference. You know, some people have gone through a type of education which has trained them to present themselves well. It doesn't mean they're going to be good at the job. It's like a sort of packaging thing. We also try to take the stress out of the interviews, so we give questions in advance, which is really a great thing to do. I know a lot of people were very negative about it when we introduced STIC. They were like, well, you're not testing people. And why would you test people? You know, why would you put them in a very stressful situation? They're not going to show you their best side. And we feel like that's worked very well. People come in, they're more relaxed, they're more themselves, and it's been a good thing. We've got a guide on our website if anyone wants to know more. Or just the final thing about representation. Obviously, if 3 white men interview you and you're from a different background and you go to an interview, that's not going to make you feel great. Probably it's worth thinking about who's on the interview panel. If your team is not very diverse, then maybe bring in someone external to come in, but give them the opportunity to help you choose. Don't just bring them in for the sake of it. The other work that Helen Jaffa has done a lot of stuff on is, okay, so now we have got a much more diverse team than we used to, but what is it like when they join the company? How do they feel when they're in? So we're also doing a lot of work on the culture, and that can be all sorts of different things. You know, when I started at Watershed, there still is, but there was a very big drinking culture, and that's where a lot of the decisions were made. A lot of the things happened. It's still happening in our cafe bar, but we're a bit more conscious of also doing networking things in the daytime for people with families. Thinking, do we need to always do things with alcohol? Maybe not. So just thinking of different things we can do together as a team that involve, can involve different types of people. And having all the resources online is a really great thing, so people can find out, you know, if I'm pregnant, what's happening. If something's happening to me, like I'm being harassed at work or there's a problem. So to have like really clear pathways for them to kind of go and find out information. And also when things go wrong in an organization, people have disagreements, they fall out, and being really clear about what do you do, who do you go to. And if you're a small organization and there's no human resource capacity, that can be very difficult for staff members because they have no one to turn to but their boss, and maybe the boss is the problem. So to really think about what could be the avenues. And again, if you're a smaller organization, it's perhaps not a full-time post. It's a board member or it's an advisor that is there as a resource for the team, as somebody that is external that they can talk to. Job descriptions. Do you all have job descriptions? If you don't, it's really worth introducing job descriptions. It helps you select the right candidates, but it helps you also monitor how they're progressing, and being really clear about how you will monitor people's performance on what indicators. And that's something that a lot of companies don't do. They don't have reviews. So to really think about like having a time to come together and review performance. And if you don't do reviews, I really recommend you do. Honestly, the things that come out when you actually sit down with somebody and you're not talking about work, you're not talking about have you done this, have you done that. It's actually giving them the space to see how are you doing, how are you getting on with our company, what are you hoping to do in the future, and it can really help figure stuff out. A few of you mentioned in your questionnaire about anti-racism training and wanting to know about it. Obviously, I'm not the right person to run an anti-racism course, but I would really recommend you look at that in your organization and find someone that can perhaps come in and make an intervention with your team. It's a really great thing to do. And yeah, it can sort of really help understand bias that you might have in terms of organizational culture, but it can open up some really good conversations as well about tensions. It's delicate work because, it's a complex piece of work to do, but there's some really good things that can come out of it. Investing in training as well, and again, going back to the boot camp, you've got this opportunity as Europa Cinemas members to do training for your country or international training. There's some really good stuff out there that you can do with your team, bringing in external partners to perhaps help you run some of those sessions. Obviously a lot of this is like, it's not, sexy dressing up and having fun, creating crazy events. This is slow structural work, and it often is the work that we put to one side and we don't do because we're too busy delivering. But really investing in your team and your people and doing that slower work is super important. And I think that it's the reason like a place like Watershed can do so well with the other things is because we invest in the people and the structures. And the final thing I'd say is these things, you kind of get a surge of energy when you start something up. So when we did the anti-racism training, everybody was like on it. It was just after Black Lives Matter. There was a lot of, vibrancy. Everyone wanted to do stuff. But then it's like, how do you keep that work going? And so really thinking about onboarding. So as new people join the company, will they get the anti-racism training? Will they know about the values? So really building that into recruitment when new people start and doing refreshers, so that, you keep that culture.
Thank you very much. Really complex onboarding structure, I see. How long, after an onboarding process, how long the people stay with you at Watershed?
A long time, yeah. Okay. And they often kind of move. Like I started off as a admin assistant. So there's a lot of opportunities to kind of grow and move. Or sometimes people go away and then they come back. Yeah.
And how long you train them?
I don't think it's how long, it's ongoing.
Okay.
So, there's constant, with sustainability, for instance, we have a group across the organization that looks at green things, and that includes people from our kitchen, the CEO, lots of different people. And they did a whole green training for the team, and now we do refreshers. We do sign language training, so 2 or 3 members of staff go off to do BSL's training, like a formal training, and then when they come back, they're responsible for training, for refreshing staff, basically. So
And do they work in all the departments?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's mostly front-facing staff, so that if you're deaf and you come into the organization, you can get a pint, you can buy a ticket, somebody will know how to do the basic signs.
Any questions?
We're gonna do a workshop. It's okay. Yes. It's a big topic.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So